We made it, guys! Happy holidays! We are at the top 15 books of 2020. We made it to the end of the year. I'm going to show you the books I liked. Let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Zach with Zacks Books. Happy holidays if you celebrate Christmas. If you don't, Happy Hanukkah, that's already passed. Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, it's the holidays. And today, if all goes according to plan, editing-wise, this should be going up around Christmas or on Christmas. Don't hold me to on Christmas, we don't know yet. But today I've got for you my top 15 books I read in 2020. I could not narrow this list down to 10. It was way too difficult. I did, and I'm like, no, I like this one. No, I like this one. It was originally 20, and then I had to make more cuts, and that was brutal. So we came up with a list of 15. There's King. There's all sorts of things in this stack. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to start it off with kind of like a tie at number 15, so technically 16. So see, it was hard to cut books. Coming in at number 15 and a half is No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. This is a really solid book. It was really true to the movie No Country for Old Men, and I really liked it. Solid story. I wish they explained more about how one of the characters dies, as opposed to just being like, yes, the next day, and like his body's found. It's like, okay, well, what the hell happened? Like, you can kind of guess because they kind of speculate like the knob was shot off with an air compressor gun, which is what the Sugar is walking around with throughout the entirety of the book and the film. So you can kind of make the assumption that's how he died, but they don't like pinpoint it exactly, like, yeah, this is how it happened. So really solid book, comes in at 15 and a half, tied with this other book that I'm going to talk about right now. Also coming in at 15 and a half is Bird Box by Josh Malerman. This was a solid story. I know when Bird Box first came out, like the Netflix movie, a lot of memes were made about it, and I made fun of it too. But after reading the book, I'm intrigued with watching the movie. And I really liked the book. It was a solid story. And I think my wife and I are eventually going to watch the movie. I'm excited for it. It's a scary concept too, having to wear blindfolds. I barely have the power to walk in the dark at night, so I can only imagine what it's like walking with a blindfold 24/7. But yeah, scary story. It's just kind of eerie. But yeah, good book. Really recommend it. 15 and a half, it tied with the other one. So now we're going to get into some legitimate numbers here. Coming in at number 14 is Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. This was a really solid short story, a really messed up story, and I loved it. I think I read another one by Keelan Patrick Burke. It did not make this list. I think it was The House on Abigail Lane, and that one was weird too. But this one was better. This little kid is like being a bitch to like what we assume to be his mom in a supermarket, and this guy's just like, okay. Then the kid gives him a piece of candy, he eats it, and then all of a sudden the kid like latches onto him, and it turns out like it's a really creepy story. I'd give this a read. All these books are on my Goodreads. Check it out. I also did this for a reading vlog and Short Story Showdown 1, which we will have up here if you want to look at that. But yeah, solid book. I'd give it a read. Good job. Coming in at number 13 is our first Stephen King book, and that is Desperation. If you saw my last video in the top 10 worst, The Regulators made that list at number 10, and this is making the list at the best at number 13. The reason why is because this is a solid story. It's a really thick book too, and I really enjoyed this. It's not talked about that much, in my opinion, and I don't know why. It's a pretty solid story. The police chief is creepy as hell. I always pictured Ron Perlman as him because he plays him in the movie Desperation, and I just really like this. If I had read this before I read The Regulators, who knows? Regulators could have been on this list. Who knows? But Desperation, really solid book. It's a chunker as well. So if you want to read a thick one, give this one a read. It's like 800, 900 pages or something like that. Number 12 is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. This book was creepy because you're involved with like this little girl who needs to get an exorcism, and she's possessed by this demon or the devil, like the devil himself, I think. And it's a solid story. You feel bad for what happens to the priest who ends up saving the day. It's not in a book, I don't think, but The Exorcist 3, like, somehow, like, they played off like the priest survives and something else happens, but that's in the movies. The book, really good book. I really recommend this. It's creepy. If you want to get, like, scared, I would read this. Read it during the night, too. The Exorcist, number 12. Coming in at number 11 is the only short story collection I have on this, and that is Different Seasons by Stephen King. This was so solid to where I couldn't just put one story into this. Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, automatic 5 stars. Really solid book. The Body, another 5-star read. Very good book. The Breathing Method, it was a weird book, but it was actually pretty solid, and I really liked it. I think I gave it like 4 stars, 4.25. The only bad one, in my opinion, in this was Apt Pupil. It's a book that I know I'm going to need to reread, Apt Pupil, because a lot of people like it, but I just didn't, and I don't know why. So I'm going to have to do a reread of it one day. But at number 11, the whole story itself, Different Seasons, really good book. I'm not going to go in depth with what each story was. I did a reading vlog with that, Old King versus New King, which that is up here. If you want to give that a look, go ahead. I talk about this more there. But Different Seasons, number 11. We have cracked the top 10. Here we go. Coming in at number 10 is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. If you watched my last video, Riley Sager made that list as the second worst book I read in Final Girls. But Home Before Dark was really creepy. I really enjoyed it. The story was solid. It's told in like 2 different timelines. It's told in the father's perspective, and then like a couple years later in the daughter's perspective when she gets the house. And you uncover the truth. Kind of. They tell you it's one thing, then another thing happens, and then another thing happens. Like, you get twisted and turned in different directions with this book, and I really liked it. So, and you ended up with a definitive answer. It wasn't just kind of like, yeah, it could have been this. You got to figure it out. Those books I don't like. So, but yeah, really good book. Really enjoyed it. Number 10, Home Before Dark. Coming in at number 9 is Christine. If you've watched my top 5 Stephen King books, this was probably the biggest surprise. Honestly, if you watched the video I had a couple weeks ago, biggest surprises in 2020, Christine was number 1. Not a lot of people talked about this book, and I love this book. It is really good. Why isn't it higher? Well, because I read some other books that weren't Stephen King that were better. It's a solid story. It's a good concept. I now want to own a 58 Red Plymouth Fury. But yeah, really solid book. Really love the story. The bondage of friendship between Arnie and Dennis in this is a lot better than the movie. And the ending is slightly different too. But I love it. It's a good book. Number 9, Christine. Coming in at number 8 is Shutter Island by Dennis Lehan. Dennis. It's a really solid story. It's also a really good movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo. I really, really like this. The concept is cool, and the story is all there. It's a solid story. It's a well-rounded book, all around, really good. The ending is a big twist. Obviously, I saw the movie when it first came out, and I didn't even know it was based off of a book. I just thought it was a really cool movie. And so I finally decided to read it, and I was not disappointed. But yeah, I really like this. I also want to read Mystic River by Dennis Lehan as well. because I saw that movie, and that was a good movie, and I want to know what that one's all about. So maybe that'll be a video coming up 2021. We'll see. But yeah, Shutter Island, number 8, really good book. Coming in at number 7 is The Troop by Nick Cutter. This is very graphic, but it is also a very good book. It's a lot better than The Deep. I have not read Little Heaven, so I can't compare it to that yet. Be ready for that video coming up soon, though. But The Troop, wow, it's a good book. And the ending is just messed up. So it's a group of kids that are in this troop, the troop, and all of a sudden there's like this weird like worm that gets into one of their bodies, and like the disease spreads like in the air, and people start dying, and it's very graphic. The counselor has a bad one. It's a very graphic book. So if you're what's the term I want to use? If you're queasy, if you can't hold your stomach, don't eat before reading this book. I'll tell you that much. And no, I did not do that. But I would not eat before reading this book just because of how graphic it is and how weird it gets. So, The Troop, Nick Cutter, comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 was probably one of the other biggest surprises I had this year, but I don't think I put it on that list. More or less as a whole, the author himself was just really a surprise for me this year, because I did read 2 other books by him. No, only one. We were going to do the other ones, but we never did. That's Horror Store was the other one we did, which is really good. And the one that made the list at number 6 is My Best Friend's Exorcism. I would not shut up about this book. You can ask my wife. I read it, and I just would not shut up about it.
Yes, he is correct.
Facts. These 2 friends are good friends, and something happens to one of them one night, and she turns into this weird, like, demonic thing, and then she, like, does something to a popular girl that gets, like, really graphic, and it was a really solid book. I really liked this, and I was really surprised with how it turned out. But I would definitely recommend this. It's a solid story. I also really like this cover, too. It's a really cool cover. So, number 6, My Best Friend's Exorcism. Alright guys, we have made it to the top 5 books I read this year. The top 5, it was hard to make this top 5. If I had a problem getting it down to 15, I had a problem getting these top 5 in the correct order. There's Stephen King in here, obviously. It was a tough time to try and make this top 5. So I'm just going to shout about it, and I'm just going to tell you what they are. Coming in at number 5 is technically a reread of this year, because I read it back in high school, but I didn't remember it quite as well. And that is The Green Mile by Stephen King, which I did a reading vlog on. This is my 100th book of 2020. Check that out up here. And then my wife and I actually watched the movie, and she cried at the end, because it's a sad ending. It's just a really solid book. I had a hard time trying to explain myself when I did the reading vlog too. Just because it's so like perfectly written, in my opinion. You feel bad for John Coffey, feel bad for Paul Edgecombe and the rest of the guards. It's a good book. I gave it 5 stars, and it cracked my top 5 Stephen King of all time, pushing The Long Walk off the top 5. And I thought that was never going to change. So, Green Mile, number 5. Coming in at number 4 is The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. This book is fucking cool. I really like this. The format it's written in, the characters in it, and the fact it's based off of like true events is just makes it creepier. If you don't know the Amityville Horror, look it up. It's a creepy story about a family who goes to this house, and the house is like possessed. The dad starts going crazy. Kind of gives you like those Shining vibes, where the dad kind of goes ballistic, tries to kill the family. Only difference is he ends up changing his mind and getting the family out of the house and all that crap, where in The Shining it ends a little differently. But the Amityville Horror, really good book. 5 stars right off the bat. I'd give it a read. I actually did this in a reading vlog with The Exorcist, which is up here if you want to take a look at that. And I just really liked it. Not much else I could say about it. So, Amityville Horror, number 4. So, my top 3 are all Stephen King. If you've watched my top 5 or top 10 Stephen King video countdown I did earlier this year, you'll know what the 3 are. I just so happened to read all 3 of them this year, and so it was kind of disappointing in a sense because I really wish I could have spread these out, but I knew how popular they were. I needed to read them, and it was difficult trying to split these into the top 3. I made the list with Stephen King top 20, and I was able to put them in a 3 order, and I was doing it again, and I'm like, I don't know if this one beats this one. I already did it this way, and so it's a hard list to make. But number 3 is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is probably one of the eeriest books I've ever read. I talk about this book a lot. So if you want to take a look at my top 5 Stephen King books, we'll have that video up here because we have done that video a few times. I've talked about it a bunch. But this is a really good book, really solid story, and you just feel bad for the kid. Gage, you feel bad for him. You feel bad for the dad because of all this crap that happens to him. I mean, it's just depressing. It's a sad book. I did also happen to read a good chunk of these next 3 without any reading vlog form. So for 2021, I'm planning to do them again and vlogging them. So I can give you my thoughts and opinions. And who knows, maybe this list might change. Maybe number 1 might end up being number 4. You know, who knows. But Pet Sematary, currently number 3, best book I read in 2020. The top 2 is always a struggle between these 2 books. And Danielle knows because I always sit and ponder it and I waste 30 minutes just to make up my mind. And my favorite character of all time is... my favorite bad character is in number 2. My favorite character of all time is now John Coffey, to be completely honest with you. But my favorite bad guy is in number 2. And that is, drumroll, The Shining by Stephen King. This book is really good. Jack Torrance is my favorite antagonist. I think that's the right word. Villain. Bad person. I know on a video where we did I forgot what the video was, but I think Danielle was part of it. And I said if I could hang out with any character in any book I had, I think I said Jack Torrance and him and I can go drinking or something like that. That still stands true, but I would also like to hang out with John Coffey. But The Shining by Stephen King is number 2. I feel like I don't need to explain it any further than that. It's really good. The ending is different than the movie. But The Shining, number 2, really good book. Really love the story. Give it a read if you have not read it yet. So that's another one I'm also planning to put in a reading vlog at some point. I'm still debating on if I'm going to do bunches of them into one vlog or if I'm going to do each one individually. Still to be decided. Here we are. Number 1, my favorite book of 2020 is It. This book is solid. Not only actually solid, but it's a solid book. It's a long book. Its story is just so good. It's the second longest book he's written besides The Stand, which if you guys were wondering where that is in this list, didn't make it because I just didn't like it as much as these other 15, 16 books. So it's my list, not yours. But It, God, this is such a good book. If I could be in a room with 2 characters from books, it'd probably be Pennywise and Jack Torrance. I'd probably get murdered, but, I'd go out with 2 of my favorite people of all time. It's a solid story. The friendship between these 7 friends in the Losers Club is fantastic. I wish that he didn't Okay, so I'm going to say some spoiler if you have not read this book. Some spoiler. I'm going to pause for a minute if you want to skip ahead like 10 seconds. I don't like that he killed one of them off by suicide. I get his point why he did, because he was the one who was afraid and still didn't believe in it. And, you know, I wish it would have, I wonder what would have happened if all 7 of them were there, as opposed to just 6 of the Losers Club. So, I don't know. But it's number 1. It's 1,100 pages of pure awesomeness. And I gave this 5 stars without a doubt. So, I'd give it a read. Make sure you check it out. It's a really good book. And that is it by Steve. That's it. Number 1. That is it. So that was it, guys. Those are my top 15 books of 2020. Really solid year. I'm a little disappointed because I did read a bunch of really good ones, so 2021 might not be as spectacular for me, but we'll see what happens. I could be wrong. But yeah, happy holidays. Happy birthday to my dad, who was born on Christmas, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, what were your top 2020 books this year? What did you really enjoy? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the new year. Later.